Yo, Amateur Lore here. What's good? So we're back with another video where we're taking a look at some of the most magical runs in March Madness history. This video is pushing like 40 minutes, so I'm keeping this intro short. These videos take a while to make, so a like and a sub would be smacko. But yeah, let's jump right into some of these magical March Madness runs. Alright, so for the first team we're going to be covering in this video is the 2020/2021 Oregon State Beavers. And right off the back, this run in March Madness from this team was nothing short of a miracle. As coming into the season, the Oregon State Beavers had only made the tournament once in the last 25 plus years, which honestly shocked me. I don't know why, I just had this image in my head of Oregon State being a decent basketball school, but I guess not. Hopefully they can change that around, as actually while I'm recording this video, they're looking like they might make the tournament, which is huge for this program. But we're not here for that. So back to this 2020/2021 squad. So I was looking at some of the Pac-12 preseason predictions from this year, and most of them had the Oregon State Beavers finishing dead last in the Pac-12. So from that, I'm just going to infer that the hype around this 2020/2021 squad was pretty much non-existent. And a lot of that might have to do with the coach's son, Trez Tinkle, leaving the program. And at the time of his departure, he would be the Beavers' all-time leading scorer and the second all-time leading rebounder. So with all that production gone, I could see why they had absolutely zero expectations coming into the season. But that's honestly when a team is at their most dangerous. So let's take a look at some of the key figures a part of this miracle Oregon State Beaver squad. Leading the team in his 6th year up to that point was Coach Wayne Tinkle, and that name should sound familiar because he was the father of Oregon State's all-time leading scorer, Trez Tinkle. Moving over to the players, taking a look at the guards, we got Ethan Thompson, who led the team in scoring, averaging 15, 4, and 3, Gerard Lucas, who'd finished second in scoring on the Beavers, putting up 12, 2, and 1, and to round out the guards, Zach Reichel, averaging 7, 3, and 2. Weaving our way to the paint patrollers at forward and the team leader in rebounds were Reith Alatishe, who'd put up 9 and 8. And finally, to round out the starting 5 at center, Roman Silver, who'd average 5 and 2. Alright, so Oregon State wouldn't have a great regular season, but they wouldn't have a bad one either. Why do I say that? Well, because they would finish the 2020/2021 season above 500, but only 2 games above it. As it seemed like all year, this team just couldn't catch a rhythm and maintain their high level of play. As multiple times throughout the season, they would win multiple games just to lose back-to-back games right after. And unfortunately for this team, that inconsistent play would really cost them. As at the end of the regular season, the Oregon State Beavers would be sitting with the record at 14 and 12 going into the Pac-12 conference tournament. And real quick, if you wonder why the amount of games they played this year in the regular season was kind of low, it was because of the virus. And I'm not 100% sure because a lot of the teams in the overall NCAA tournament this year would have weird records, but I assume the Beavers needed to win the Pac-12 tournament if they wanted to make it to the dance. And to begin the Pac-12 tournament, Oregon State would be matched up against UCLA. And I'm peeking into the future really quick, but this UCLA squad was the one that would make it to the Final Four. So Oregon State was going to have to play their best game of the year against the Bruins and risk having to resume classes the following Monday, while everybody else got to keep playing ball. Could the Beavers do it? Okay, so I was going to show the UCLA versus Oregon State highlights, but for some reason I couldn't find the highlights of this game, which is kind of strange because this was only like 5 years ago, but it is what it is. At least I was able to find the rest of the tournament. But yeah, Oregon State would come out on top of UCLA 83-79. And although early on it looked like UCLA might be running away with this matchup, as going into halftime the Bruins would be up by 10, the Beavers would slowly start to claw their way back, taking a 70-69 lead against UCLA with less than 11 seconds left on the clock. But a late foul from the Beavers would send the Bruins to the line where they would split the free throws, sending the game into overtime. But from there, Oregon State would outlast UCLA, securing the win and sending the Beavers to the next round of the conference tournament, where they would face off against the number 1 seed in the conference tournament, the Oregon Ducks. Going into their game with the Ducks, the Beavers were about 10-point underdogs, and I could understand why. This Oregon team had gone 20-5 through the regular season and were playing some pretty high level basketball. The Oregon State Beavers would need to play one of their best games of the season if they wanted to move on to the Pac-12 Conference Championship game.
Now, can these Beavers show that they belong?
Oh, there you go.
And the fiery competitor that I most appreciate.
Oh, nice job.
Matt Muehlbach, because they have brought it.
Nice pass, and Duarte slam. It's perfect in that.
Beautiful.
Nice drive by Alatishe. Without a foul, both men are slow getting up, so it's 4-on-4, and Thompson buries it.
Don't think about the refs.
Look at this. That's incredible.
That stepped out of bounds.
Back to Kalu. He can shoot it. And Kalu.
Just attack. You got to score.
Wants it. He has it.
Oregon State would play one of their best basketball games of the season, defeating their in-state rivals, the Oregon Ducks, 75-64, advancing the Beavers to the conference championship game where they would face off against Colorado. In this game versus the Ducks, Oregon State would put their foot on the gas to start the game and never take it off, as they would shoot 50% from the field, 52% from 3, and would out-rebound the Ducks 38-24. With team stats like this, it's no wonder why it was the little brother in the state of Oregon advancing to the championship game instead of the big bro. With all that being said, the Beavers still had one more obstacle to overcome to punch their ticket to prom. Beat the 23rd ranked Colorado Buffs. Do that and you win your first conference title in program history, but more importantly, guarantee your way into March Madness.
Crowd support right here in T-Mobile. This game is going to be spectacular.
Here's Evan Batty in the paint, and Batty with the game at Georgetown and won the Big East tournament some 35 years ago, and he coached the day.
I watched They're deep, they're talented, they spread it out, they've got athleticism, they got Zach Reichel who can knock down three.
He said you're on. Your handler told me that.
Laurie's my handler.
On the
Great
season.
defense by Evan Batty.
Kalu up top. Another three. Knocks it away from Kalu. Shot clock at 7. Here's Kalu with 3. Kalu over Horn, able to hit.
Wow. Red Lucas, Hacienda Heights, Los Altos High School, Inland Empire.
Here's Schwartz looking to answer it.
The Spindletop Gusher. Did you ever check that
Yes,
out?
yes. Lucas jumper. Good.
Beautiful. This game, he's got to come alive here. And I don't want to see it off his own dribble. I want to see it moving the ball.
Kalu buries a 3 with
Being gobbled up by the Beavers. And
Alatiche missed the front end, but he gets it back.
his elevation.
Lucas fires away. Cans of Alatiche
Beautiful.
gets past Horn and lays it in. It's a 8 seconds to
Now,
go.
don't foul.
Right for 3. Got it. McKinley right. Batty to right. Right gets it away from half court. No good. And Oregon State, for the first time in school history, has won the Pac-12 tournament.
The Beavers would do the unthinkable and outplay the Colorado Buffs in the Pac-12 championship game, winning 70-68, securing Oregon State their first ever conference basketball title, and more importantly, punching their ticket to the men's basketball tournament. Now, even though the Beavers were on a nice little winning streak and had won the Pac-12 tournament, they would still be given the 12th seed, and for their first game of the tournament, they would be matched up against the 5th-seeded Tennessee Vols. There's really no need to show the highlights of this first round game for the Beavers, as they would dominate Tennessee and win 70-56. The Beavers would be up by 14 going into halftime, and the Vols would be trying to come back pretty much the entire second half, but Oregon State would always be one step ahead. And when taking a look at the box score, it paints an even bigger picture, as the Vols would shoot 33% from the field and under 15% from the three-point line, as well as being out-rebounded by the Beavers. With splits like this, it's no wonder why it was Oregon State moving on to the second round, where they would be facing off against the 4th-seeded Oklahoma State Polks and the future #1 overall pick Cade Cunningham. And if they were somehow able to pull off this huge upset, they'd be rewarded with the Sweet 16 matchup against a team I've already covered before in the Loyola Chicago Ramblers.
Over the last couple of games, he's very active and energetic on the inside.
Look at the black jerseys quickly run around All-America. Cade Freshman is in the game for the Cowboys. Cunningham is protecting the wing. Caleb Booth, great spin, and he checks. Bigs are running. Nice defensive play, rejection by Alatiche. Kalu, 3, got it! That's why he leads. Thompson glides for a 14-footer.
Oklahoma State has not really taken advantage of the opportunity with which they've been presented.
3, Cunningham. Got it! Nothing run. Silver on the perimeter, fires and hits.
Can't leave points at the free throw line.
Cunningham thrashing, firing, knocking it in. Williams on the wing, uncorks a 3. Big shot. Thompson wheeling, steering, swerving, spinning, firing. Good! This will make headlines. Oregon State is going to the Sweet 16. The most decorated players in the history of the Loyola program. Nice feed inside. Williamson.
Ramblers, they're going to miss him.
He had 21 in that first round game in that win over Georgia Tech. Thompson scoreless. Uncorks a 3.
Uglock has 2 fouls. Clemens has 2 fouls. Williamson has 2 fouls.
Silver. Thompson with a 3. Got it. Alatiche got it away in time, and their biggest lead this afternoon. As Krutwig finagles a shot in Johnson. Got it inside, but he's surrounded by black jerseys and Norris. Williamson puts up a 3. Silva was waiting. It's a 3. And Braden Norris will hit on top. 2. Lucas got it. Fade away. Lucas. Alatiche cleans with Kennedy driving right down the middle. That'll count for 2. Lucas 3, bullseye! And that'll do it. What a surprise. Oregon State is going to the
Versus the Polks and Cade Cunningham, the Beavers would go to work on the defensive end of the court, holding their opposition to under 27% shooting from the field and the three-point line, as well as out-rebounding the Cowboys 52-32. I say all that because Oregon State would once again win, defeating the Cowboys 80-70. The Beavers were up pretty much the entire game, and while the Polks would slowly start to crawl their way back, Oregon State would always have a response. And shout out to Ethan Thompson. Homie balled out, going for 26 points and being near perfect at the free throw line, going 15 for 16 at the charity stripe, and playing a huge role in this big win. Moving on to the Sweet 16, where they would match up against the 8th seeded Loyola Chicago Ramblers. For the third straight game during this NCAA men's basketball tournament, the Oregon State Beavers would be up going into halftime, as they would lead Loyola Chicago 24-16. In the second half, the Ramblers would try to chip away at the lead, eventually coming within 4 points, but that was as close as it would get, as Oregon State would win 65-58, advancing the Beavers to the Elite Eight. And once again, Ethan Thompson would play amazing, dropping 22 points and being a perfect 8 for 8 from the free throw line. Oregon State had pretty much busted everyone's bracket at this point into the March Madness tournament, as no one in their right mind had picked the Beavers to make it this far. And if you did, email me and give me your number. Let's make some cash. More seriously though, Oregon State was making history and bringing a whole new set of eyeballs onto this great program. But the job wasn't done yet. The Elite Eight is cool, but you know what's cooler than the Elite Eight? The Final Four. And one team stood in the Beavers' way from that, the second-seeded Houston Cougars.
Went to 3 straight Final Fours from 82 to 84, but have not been there since. Oregon State has not been to a Final Four since 1963. And Giroux, the dribble drive, teardrop, gets the roll.
And you see some hesitation a little bit, but that not right there though.
6.
And they're a good free throw shooting team too, at 77%.
White gets a touch, count it.
Very patient offensive set.
Thompson on target. Thompson, pull up pop. Rimming, no, follow, goes down for silver.
Oregon State's perspective. I think you go corner, yeah.
Grimes, count it. Thompson, feed the post. Alatishe, kick. Diagonal Hunt, banks that one in. Rolled, White.
They get an open shot out of it.
Grimes, yes, a 3. The dream is alive for Houston. For the first time in 37 years, the Cougars are going to the...
Oregon State's magical run in March Madness would come to an end in the Elite Eight, as they would lose 67-61 to the Houston Cougars. Early on, it looked like Oregon State was going to get blown out by Houston, as the score would be 34-17 going into halftime. For credit to the Beavers, they would keep fighting, crawling their way back into the game, but Houston would just be too much for Oregon State to overcome, sending them home. And obviously, nobody likes to lose, but this run that Oregon State had put together was nothing short of a miracle, considering their circumstances coming into the Pac-12 tournament. Leaving the West Coast, we head over to the Northeast for our next team in today's video. Alright, so Syracuse fans that watch a lot of my football videos, I've been trying to find a video to talk about the Orange because I'm going to sprinkle in some lore about me. But growing up, my favorite quarterback in the NFL was the Syracuse legend Donovan McNabb. And no, not the Redskins version, the Eagles version with Andy Reid. One of my most vivid memories from my childhood was receiving a McNabb Fathead on Christmas. And comment down below if you remember Fatheads or had one growing up. Nostalgia aside, if you haven't got the hint yet, the team up next in this entry is the 2015/2016 Syracuse Orange. The last time this great basketball school would make it to the Final Four. And it might be the last time for a while because lately the Orange's basketball teams haven't been producing at the level we've become accustomed to. But with the history this program has, I'm sure that they can bounce back and become elite again. Okay, so for this 2015/16 Syracuse Orange basketball team, I was trying to see what the hype around this team was coming into the year, and according to the Atlantic Coast Conference website, the Orange were predicted to finish about 9th in the conference, which when you take a look at the school's final regular season record, it was spot on. But that's the beauty about college basketball. You can be mid all season and still make the natty if you get hot at the right time. Anyway, that's a short little intro, so let's take a look at some of the key figures a part of this Orange squad. Leading the program in his 40th year up to that point was the college basketball coaching legend and the best coach in Syracuse history, Jim Boeheim. And I just want to say this, I really hope that I can do something that I love at a high level for as long as Coach Boeheim did. That's just super dope. Glaze aside, moving over to the starting 5. At the guard spots, we had Malachi Richardson, who'd averaged 13-4-2, and Trevor Cooney, who'd put up 12-2-2. Rotating over to the forward spot, the team lead in scoring, Michael Benajay, averaging 17-4-4, and at the other forward position, Tyler Roberson, who would average 8-8. And finally, at the center position, Dejan Coleman, putting up 4-4. So to open up the 2015/16 college basketball season, the Orange would roar out the gate, winning their first 6 games and looking like they might be a favorite to win the ACC. But right after they would go 6-0, they would start to sputter a little bit, as in their next 11 they would go 4-7, putting their record at 10-7, about a third's way through the college basketball season. A strong middle and late January would have the Orange back in the thick of things, competing for a decent seeding in the tournament. As to end January and in the early parts of February, the Orange would be riding a 5-game winning streak. Syracuse would put the streak on the line in a road game against the Louisville Cardinals and would sadly be outplayed, losing by 14, putting the the Orange's record at 18-9, which wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. All they had to do was finish the season strong. Unfortunately, Syracuse would do the exact opposite of that, going 1-5 in their final 6 games, as well as losing in their first game of the ACC tournament to the Pitt Panthers 72-71, setting the Syracuse Orange's end of the season record at 19-13. Would the Orange be able to make the tourney with this mid record? Of course they would, or we wouldn't have a video. If you're wondering how they received the 10th seed with a 19-13 record, I'd say it was probably because of the amount of big wins this team had this year, as they would beat 4 ranked teams, UConn and Texas A&M, which were ranked 18th and 25th at one point in the season, as well as defeating 20th ranked Duke and 25th ranked Notre Dame. Alright, so entering March Madness as the 10th seed, the Orange definitely had a huge uphill climb on their road to the Final Four, but Coach Boeheim had been here and done this many times, so he knew exactly how to have his troops ready for battle. As in their first matchup versus the 7th-seeded 25-7 Dayton Flyers, the Orange would come to play, as they would win by 19 points. Early on, the game was close, as Syracuse would lead by 2 going into halftime, but would outscore the Flyers 40-23 in the second half to win their first round game easily 70-51, sending the Orange to the second round, where they would be blessed with the game against the 15th-seeded Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. Wait, what? Why was the 10th seed facing off against the 15th seed? Well, in the round before, the Blue Raiders would upset the 2nd-seeded Michigan State Spartans, a team with 4 future NBA players on it, 90-81. Man, March Madness is amazing. So yeah, instead of Syracuse versus Spartans, we were getting the Orange versus the Blue Raiders, who'd advance to the Sweet 16.
Definitely contest jump shot, but when you have Draquan Raymond breaking down the defense, and there's Benajay.
Or Tyler Roberson. Cooney's hit a couple of threes on the drive. Benajay. Third run of this first half. Bullet pass inside, kick it out. Harris will take it, and Harris will hit.
Rebound on that offensive rebound by Dajuan Coleman.
Kenny Potts seconds into the second half. That gave him the lead, actually, but Syracuse on a run since. Inside, Coleman. Cooney comes up with it. Benajay out in front, all by himself. 20 points for Benajay, and the Syracuse defense with the clamps down.
Syracuse would dominate the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders 75-50 in the second round of the men's basketball tournament. The Orange were shooting absolutely lights out, as they would shoot 55% from the field and 40% from the three-point line. And that's not it. Syracuse was also holding it down on defense, forcing the Blue Raiders offense that just beat the number 2 seed to shoot under 30%. With splits like this, it's no wonder why the Orange won by 20 plus points and were advancing to the Sweet 16, where they would be facing off against 10th seeded Gonzaga. This matchup was low-key a heavyweight bout between 2 bracket busters, with something to prove and everything to lose, as the Elite Eight was in both of these teams' graphs. All they needed to do was win, and boy would these two teams put on a show in Chicago.
Had it, lost it, picked up by Roberson. Here's a finishing triple. Roberson! Way come the Bulldogs. McClellan. Wiltshire, another triple. Good! And now Tyler Lighton has checked in for Syracuse with a good try by Pinochet. Knocked up high, knocked away, and here's Wiltshire the other way for the Bulldogs.
What a block there by the WCC Defensive Player of the Year.
And Lewis Johnson, who ran track at the University of Cincinnati, and Reggie, of course, in his career at UCLA. Outside a triple. 4-4 from 3, 1 of 7 since. Good feed, Roberson, and the pass. They come in 21-13, and Gonzaga at 28-7. Long shot put down.
Never found me on.
No rebounds ever found me. The shot outside by Nelson. Wiltshire will follow with 2 and a foul. Cooney trolling the top. Benajay on the wing. Now takes it inside into a couple and makes it go.
Out to us, though, that Domantas Sabonis was born in Portland.
Wiltshire Sabonis, the Portland Bull. They got Perkins, watching Richardson. This is a 3. Big shot. To Sabonis, to Dranginis, to Perkins, and here come the Bulldogs. They got to get by midcourt. They knocked away with Cooney. That's a violation. What defense by Syracuse? Benajay for the lead, up and off. Rebounded and put back up and in. Syracuse has grabbed the lead.
Who was down along the baseline did not make the call.
Dranginis, Nelson, Perkins, Wiltshire. Knocked away, but a play by Lighton. 0.6. Dranginis, Sabonis. That's it. Syracuse is going to the Elite Eight. Remarkable.
Syracuse versus Gonzaga would be one of the best games in the 2016 men's basketball tournament. Gonzaga would jump out on top early and would carry the lead for majority of the first half, going into halftime with a 29-28 lead against the Orange. In the second half, both teams would turn it up, exchanging buckets as the game would go down to the wire, where on a missed shot, Syracuse star Michael Benajay would grab the offensive board and put it back up, giving Syracuse the lead 61-60 with less than 25 seconds left to go. Gonzaga would get 2 opportunities to tie or win the game, but the Orange's defense would shut them down, winning the Sweet 16 against the Gonzaga Bulldogs 63-60, advancing Syracuse to the Elite Eight. Hear me out. Syracuse was playing impressive, but in all reality, they had gotten very lucky with how this bracket played out, avoiding a lot of the top teams. And Bulldog fans, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Gonzaga was bad. They legit had probably a top 3 big in the current NBA and Domantas Sabonis on their squad. But when it comes to seeding, they hadn't played any of the top teams, but that was all going to change in their Elite Eight matchup, as they were set to face off against the number 1 seeded Virginia Cavaliers, a team who had 6 dudes who get a cup of coffee in the NBA. This was easily going to be the Orange's toughest matchup of the tournament. Would the Orange be booking a flight to Houston from Chicago, or would they be headed back to New York to resume classes on the following Monday?
Not sure you can get that one with 2 hands. The pass was not very good, and there's a bad pass, and that allows Syracuse to get out and go.
Brogdon throws it away. Benajay at the other end. Picked up now by Hall. He's off to the races. Players on both sides. Finds Thompson. For Syracuse, they now have 7. 5 for Virginia. Great feed on the break. Thompson. How did that go in? Hall joins it. Wilkins. Oh, great interception by Benajay. 7 turnovers there. He'll take it himself right to the rails. Richardson on the wing. Roberson down low. Somebody lost their shoe, and that was Leiden.
Well, that's a great ball handling move there. They're dribbling against Malcolm Brogdon.
Oh, I love it.
You talk about Cinderella to your defense if you're the Virginia Cavaliers.
Fuentes 3. 4 threes. But they have been on a tear. They go inside Wilkins, and they find Fuentes watches Cooney drive. Got with a beautiful block tonight. Approaching 5 gone in the second half. 9.5 to go. Brogdon. Michael Benajay's on him. Fuentes a 3. Good move by Richardson to get free.
Yes. Watch the three-point line here on a possession like this. Continuing with this pressure here. Speeding up Virginia.
Brogdon with the drive. Michael Benajay.
Speed the game up.
Syracuse led earlier by 6. Richardson knifing his way. Richardson 3. Richardson got the ball, handcuffed and put it in. Jim Boeheim and Syracuse have done it. Back from the dead on Easter Sunday. They're going to the Final Four.
The Orange would do the unthinkable in the Elite Eight versus the Virginia Cavaliers, winning 68-62. This game was absolutely bonkers for Syracuse fans, and I'm assuming it had to be extremely frustrating for Virginia fans. But early on, it looked like the Orange had been juiced, as they couldn't get their offense going. It seemed like there was a lid on the basket. While on the other hand, Virginia was going to work, looking like every bit of the number 1 seed they were coming into this tournament. As at halftime, Virginia would be leading Syracuse 35-21. I don't know what it is about college basketball, but the game seems so much slower. So when a team is down by like 13, it usually is really hard for them to come back. So Syracuse was really in need of a miracle. Through good defense and smart adjustments, the Orange would slowly start to crawl their way back, retaking the lead with about 6 minutes left in the game. And from there, Virginia would just look lost, as the Orange would speed up the usual slow half-court offense of the Cavaliers, as they would only be able to score 4 points in the final 6 minutes. Syracuse was moving on to their 6th Final Four in program history up to this point, where they would see themselves matched up against the first-seeded powerhouse North Carolina Tar Heels basketball squad. I don't think there's any need to set the stage for how big of a game this was. I will mention though, before we jump into it, that these teams had already faced off twice during the regular season, where the Tar Heels would defeat the Orange 84-73 and 75-70. 2 pretty competitive games. And you know what they say, it's nearly impossible to beat the same team 3 times in the same season. So the universe, or whatever you want to call it, was low-key in the Orange's favor. All they had to do was get the job done on the hardwood, so they could potentially face off against the Villanova Wildcats. Easier said than done though, right?
And he came back into a matchup against North Carolina.
And he had some strange looking like he does have some, look at that rotation now. He may get the bounce. You'll see him block some shots. They're looking for the lob. And that's light.
Oh, and he tapped it right in.
Attacking it off the dribble. Maybe they should do more of that. Brett.
Followed up by Johnson.
He's really a nice playmaker as well. Plus his ability to drive and hit that little hang shot like that.
Jackson.
Nice
only
pass.
Carolina underneath. Orange hitting only 5 of its last 21. Checked it.
Turn and give it out. You have Richardson in the corner. Nice step through. How about that?
Wow, Vince. Benager, he lost control of it. Up ahead to Page. His second basket of the night.
To the paint, you got to close down that.
Freddie, that's why they don't hit the threes. Perfect trap.
Hadn't hurt him. And
Nice
Page,
pass.
look at that. Doesn't even catch it.
It's nice to be lefty in that position.
Sadly, in the Final Four, the bracket buster Syracuse Orange would lose to the North Carolina Tar Heels 83-66. North Carolina was in control for the majority of the game and would out-rebound the Orange and shoot about 50% from the field, never really making this matchup very competitive. And even though Syracuse wouldn't be playing in the Natty, what they had still pulled off this year was extremely impressive. And you guys can correct me down in the comments if I'm wrong, but I believe the Orange are the only 10th seed to reach the Final Four, which is insane to think about because an 11th seed has made it to the Final Four more times than the 9th and 10th seed combined. But what are you going to do? College sports are very strange. Okay, so for the last entry in this video, we got a very special team to look at that I know for a fact y'all would terrorize me in the comments if I didn't cover the squad at least in one video. So I'm going to get it out the way right now. So let's leave Syracuse and head not too far to Jersey City, New Jersey to take a look at the 2021/2022 St. Peter's Peacocks, one of the greatest March Madness Cinderella stories of all time. So where do we start with this team? Well, first, let's take a slight look at their tournament history. Before the 2021/22 college basketball season, the Mighty Peacocks didn't have the most illustrious basketball history, only making the men's basketball tournament 3 times and never winning a tournament game before the magical season we're talking about today. But to be fair, I swear it's so hard to make the tournament when you're not a part of a Power 6 conference and play in one of the smaller conferences that most casual basketball fans have never heard of. And speaking of conferences you probably never heard of, taking a look at the 2021/22 Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference preseason predictions, the Peacocks were actually expected to be a real contender within the conference this year, as most outlets either had them finishing first or second within their conference. So it was safe to say the Peacocks were expecting to compete for a tournament bid this season or maybe even win a tournament game. That's a short little intro, so let's take a look at the key members a part of this magical Peacock squad. Leading the program in only his second year up to that point was Coach Shaheen Holloway, and bro would be out after this season, and I can't blame him honestly. Go get the bag, but damn, you would think he'd want to stay and build something, I don't know. Sliding over to the guards, we got Darrell Banks, who'd lead the team in scoring, averaging 11-2-1, Casey Nadafo averaging 10-6-2, and finally to round out the guards, Matthew Lee, who'd put up 6-1-2. Moving over to the big man position, like most small colleges, this team didn't have a traditional center, so we're looking at their starting forwards, who were Clarence Rupert averaging 4-2, and finally to finish off the starting 5, Hassan Drame, who'd put up 6-5. Alright, so in the first part of the 2021/22 college basketball season, the Peacocks were not looking too good as through their first 9 games they'd be sitting at 3-6 and would have to dwell on that record for weeks because the next 5 games would either be cancelled or postponed due to the virus still kicking around. The Peacocks would be feeding the ball, so once they were back and playing, they would fight and claw their way back through the dog part of their schedule, bringing their record back to above 500 at 12-11. At this point of the season, St. Peter's had got back on track, but still had some work to do if they wanted to actually have a chance of making it to homecoming. No cap, this Peacock team was built a little different, as with their backs on the wall, with them needing to finish out the regular season strong to give themselves good seeding in their conference tournament, they would do exactly that, defeating Monmouth, Niagara, Manhattan, and Fairfield to bring their record before the Metro Atlantic tournament to 16-11. So the Peacocks would enter their conference tournament with the 2nd seed and would look like by far the best team in the tournament, as they would easily defeat Fairfield 77-63 and Quinnipiac 64-52, setting up a winner-take-all championship game in the Metro versus Monmouth, where the winner would be representing the Metro Atlantic Conference in the NCAA men's basketball tournament.
Second foul on Lee for St. Peter's as Miller with that quick fire, rebound batted out beautifully. McClary and Monmouth will reset. It's Pappas, and it's a 3. Mixed in a little zone earlier on. Totally out of control. Drame had his pass redirected. Entered in the corner on the find from Nadafo, and it's swirled down. Header for a give and go, didn't have the rim. Instead, he kicks it out, and Dasher.
Just missed shots and a lot of arms and elbows.
That's a 3.
The same thing over and over and over. Just repeat the same line.
Well, that's an important part of coaching. You go to any shoot-around, you have to repeat everything 3 times. Get it across to the players. The repetition works. There's 2 for Drame on the weak side.
Guinness.
He's got 4 of the 6 after a halftime for Monmouth. St. Peter's by 5. Lee sizing up Reynolds, and he cashes in for 3.
St. Peter's would win the Metro Conference Championship against Monmouth in a pretty close game, as the final score would be 60-54. Major shout out to the Peacocks defense this game, because while St. Peter's would lose the rebound and turnover battle, their defense was locked in as they would force Monmouth to shoot under 24% from the field and an even worse 15% from the 3-point line. With splits like this, if the Peacocks would have lost this game, it would have been nobody's fault but their own, as their opposition was shooting like a team full of Ben Simmons. The Peacocks were now Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference champions, but more importantly had punched their ticket to prom for the first time in 10 seasons and for the 4th time in program history. Now, making the dance was awesome for a program like this, but it's hard to imagine anybody would just be happy with making the tournament. Now that St. Pete's was here, they were like a shark in the water hunting for blood as the 15th seed, trying to do something that only 7 other teams before them have done, which is win their round 1 game. I'm pretty sure most of you watching this video know who the Peacocks were matching up against in their first round game, and if you don't, they were playing a loaded 2nd seed Kentucky team. Coming into this matchup, the Peacocks were 18-point underdogs, and I mean, that sounds about right. Kentucky was loaded with ESPN top 100 players, while St. Pete's was filled with a bunch of dudes who'd probably never sniffed the NBA. No offense, that's just how life works. So in all reality, the Peacocks were playing with house money in their game versus the Wildcat. Could they at least make the game interesting for the fans watching in Indiana?
The Peacocks won the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference tournament to advance to the NCAA tournament. Kentucky fell in the SEC semifinals to Tennessee, 69-62. Kentucky controls the tip. We're under team All-American. Repost.
Yep, good move.
Ball fake, spin, double, Shibwe, kick out. Wheeler will fire, connection.
Good shooter. Spot up guy, catch and shoot.
Murray. No hesitation. Eder. Back outside. Drame makes his move. Drives in for...
It's in the building here chanting right now.
Big Blue Nation. Oh, they like that on a tap.
I'm thinking he's going to double again.
Yeah.
Unless he gets fouled. Look at this.
Slip to the rim. Rupert finishes.
Let's see how St. Peter's reacts. Do they come down and panic a little bit, get the emotions against them?
Banks, cold-blooded.
Boy, they don't. They just come back and answer. Body English going right now. Nice cut.
Toppin. The slam. Brady catches up to it. Hard drive. Swatted. It's Drame with the denial.
Look at Drame now in the glass.
And the jumper is... Gives it up. Keep the ball moving for Mintz. Bounce it. Shibwe. Turn. Baker is good and a foul. Officials felt the ball was tipped. Lee. The jumper is good.
Isn't he? 12 rebounds.
Eder hands it off. Now Defo flood.
Weave action, looking for a post.
Banks goes behind the back. Banks hangs and hits. And second defender is Brooks. Shot clock at 10. Murray wants to dance. Hits the jumper.
He wants it, I know that.
Wheeler, drive, got it. Play the offensive rebound. Tries to power in, kicks it back. Grady. Oh, big one. Grady. Defo hands to Lee. Eder just made the big three. The drive. Push shot.
Oh!
Rolls in.
Pointing. That means you pick up the next guy in your area.
Shibwe clears space.
Don't play the scoreboard if you're St. Peter's. Get something going towards the basket if you can find it.
Eder, jumper. Yes, sir. A three. On one with Brooks. Hands it for Lee. Bounce. Nadefo.
Oh, pretty.
Gives it up. Drame.
A little time off the clock.
St. Peter's up by 5. 3.
Oh.
Good. Tie. Wheeler gives it up. Brooks, the jumper. No good. You can feel the madness. St. Peter's.
St. Peter's would do the unthinkable, defeating the 2nd seeded Kentucky Wildcats 85-79 in overtime. This first round matchup was an absolute banger, as neither team would be able to pull away from one another, as the lead would change and be tied multiple times throughout the game. Huge shout out to Darrell Banks, guard for the Peacocks. Brother played one of his best games in his career and one of the biggest games he's ever played in, dropping 27 points against the Wildcat defense. And when taking a look at the shooting splits, the Peacocks had to play a near perfect game to nearly pull off a win against this Kentucky squad, as they would shoot lights out, shooting 50% from the field and 52% from the 3-point line. Even with splits as good as this, it would take a clutch closing job from Doug Edert, as homie would hit a clutch 3 and a floater with about 24 seconds left on the clock to send the game into overtime. And from there, the rest would be history, as the Peacocks would win and move on to the next round of the NCAA tournament, where they would be faced off against 7-seeded Murray State for a chance to make the Sweet 16. Now let's be real, this is usually the point where the bracket busters run out of gas and start to fall off, right? There's no way this gritty Peacock squad could keep the winning streak going, right? There's no way they would be booking a flight from Indiana to Philadelphia, right?
The winner advances to Philadelphia. We're underway.
From the popularity, he cannot believe he's a March Madness folklore star.
Amazing what this month can do for Rupert. That ball got deflected.
But that wasn't to Brown. I think that was to Hill. Almost took Brown's head off.
Shot clock winding down.
State just not getting the shots to drop.
Their two stars are 1 of 9. Wow, nicely done of Murray State. Murray back in there for St. Peter's. The drive.
Peters will hang around the middle of the floor and rebound.
Hill, jab, jumper, splash.
He's smooth, isn't he?
Banks one-on-one with Brown. Banks on a kick, jumper Lee. He's got it. A 3 can have.
I'm wondering who's going to step up for Murray State. Maybe this guy.
Brown cans it from the
12-minute mark.
Eddard, ball fake, swing. Lee doesn't take the J. He'll take the pull-up and hit.
That we're going in for St. Peter's earlier, not right now.
Brown, kaboom! Nadefo makes his move on Skipper Brown. Backs it out with 7. Swing it. Eddard trying to break free, floats it up. Gets the... And it's over. St. Peter's has done the unthinkable. The Peacocks.
St. Peter's would keep the momentum rolling as they would defeat 7th-seeded Murray State 70-60. While the score would end up in a 10-point win for the Peacocks, this matchup was much closer as the Peacocks would only be leading Murray State by 5 going into halftime, as the score would be 32-27. St. Pete's would dominate the start of the second half, going up by as much as 13, but Murray State would slowly start to crawl their way back into the game, as with about 1 minute left in the game, Tevin Brown of the Racers would make a layup, bringing the Peacocks lead to only 4, as the score would be 64-60. From there, the Peacocks would hold on, not allowing the Racers to score in the final minute, winning the game 70-60, becoming only the third 15 seed to that point to ever make it to the Sweet 16, where they would be matched up against a loaded 3rd-seeded Purdue Boilermaker squad led by 2 future NBA first-round picks in Jaden Ivey and Zach Edey. The Peacocks were obviously underdogs as coming into this game, Purdue was favored by 13. But with that being said, that was nothing new for St. Peter's as they had been underdogs in pretty much every game so far in this tournament, so I don't think they were too phased. The Peacocks were more focused on becoming the first 15 seed to ever make the Elite 8. Would the Peacocks make history in Philadelphia?
Peacock's first New Jersey school in the Sweet 16 since Seton Hall 22 years ago. Purdue controls the tip. We're underway.
Range jump shot is going to be important for St. Peter's also.
Jaden Ivey makes his move, sweeping, gets the roll.
How fast he is to react in that secondary part of their break. Nice
Nadefo gives it up. The Philly native.
Take many of them, but he's a 30% shooter from there.
Ivey, the bounce. Williams working around the perimeter. Jumper, Thompson, bottom.
On the perimeter.
Remember, St. Peter's is doing this right now with 5 subs.
Yeah.
Hunter, the drive, dish, Edey!
Somebody to release so he can get it to the big guy and just have him flush it.
He's got a 7'8" wingspan. Murray doesn't care.
Defensively, it happened probably about 2 months ago, really, when they made a shift upstairs.
And the jam!
Down past him.
Extra feed, Rupert, good, and a foul! Purdue has won 31 straight games when leading at the half, and they're going to have a halftime
trouble right here. Matt Painter may be yelling that out.
Murray, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Murray at the horn!
But he will get to his spot, understands where that is.
Good ball fake, Banks.
Look at this, look at this.
Gets the roll! 3 of 16 from three-point territory. Ivey drops it inside. Williams. Oh! Excuse! Lee on the outside. Swing it. Corner. Dasher. Cans it for 3.
Back in with Edey on the floor.
High screen. Rupert playing with those 3 fouls. Jumper. Lee connects.
There you got the post. Get it to him.
Edey.
There you go.
Too easy.
Area 2. Here comes Ivey. Nice cut to the basket.
Ivey hits the open man. Williams. What an adjustment. Stefanovic.
Yeah, he's all over Eddard.
10 to shoot. Banks. Drive. Floater. Gets it to go. 2-point lead. Out front. Drive. Dish. They need it. Jumper. Hunter. Off the rim. No. Rebound and putback goes for Mason Gillis. 61. 12 seconds left. Ivey has to hurry. Jump shot. Good. A 3. 1-7-64, 4 seconds left.
They don't like the foul, remember.
Ivey for the tie. Off the rim, and it's over. This miracle run continues.
for St.
In yet another nail-biter of a game, the underdog Peacocks would come out on top, defeating the loaded Purdue Boilermakers 67-64, in a game that was super close the whole entire way through the second half, as both teams would go back and forth trading the score until with about 3 minutes left in the game, Darrell Banks would turn into the Terminator, nailing the game-tying jumper to bring the score to 57-all. Then after a Purdue miss, he would come down the court once again hitting a clutch shot to give the Peacocks the lead, and from there they wouldn't give up the lead as they would close out the game, even though Purdue would make it extremely tough. Because of this amazing effort from the Peacocks, they had etched their name in history, as no matter what happens for the rest of time, this 2021/22 St. Peter's Peacocks basketball team will always be the first 15 seed to ever make the Elite Eight. But you already know, when you get a taste of success like the Peacocks had been, there's always going to be that human need to crave for more. And in St. Pete's case, it was the Final Four. But to get a taste of that sweet, sweet Final Four, they'd have to get past a team who had been there plenty of times, the 8th seeded North Carolina Tar Heels.
This should be a fun game to do and to watch and just enjoy.
North Carolina controls the tip. We're underway in Philadelphia.
You have to get to the offensive glass. Here's one right here.
Bacot, the spin, too tough.
Team hasn't gotten rattled in 3 NCAA games, so they don't seem rattled right now. They're just not making shots until
There it is.
right then. They're looking for Bacot, but they're pushing him out. Here's that pick and roll, double team action.
A hedge from Banks, kicking around the perimeter. Shot clock winding down. Manick fires, bottom. What a smooth stroke. North Carolina, they might be missing shots, but they're getting the shots they want.
They are, but I'm also sensing that the speed of North Carolina is bothering them a lot.
Puff, jump.
It's going to be a matchup defense.
Yep. And this was effective against Purdue.
Sure was.
Holloway switched to it. Love. Well, that'll break the zone every time.
We've seen Love go at the basket using their power hands.
Banks. Follow. Goes. Just blowout losses obviously hurt their resume when you get crushed by Kentucky. Nadefo on the racket.
The spotlight of the program that would affect his family, his wife and his kids. He told us when he played, the ridicule only...
Airball. What this has meant to the community has been amazing. Drame is heading back to the Final Four, setting up a dream matchup with Duke.